Turkish Airlines presents Business Africa.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of Business Africa. This week we're in Abidjan for the 12th edition of the Africa CEO Forum. Over 2,000 investors, business leaders and civil society actors have gathered here to address a key issue, accelerating the continent's development. They'll discuss the strategic alliance between the public and private sectors. Business Africa will focus on the energy sector, a cornerstone of sustainable growth. We'll also take a look at new technologies and the challenge of regulating artificial intelligence. And finally, we'll head to the infrastructure sector, which, from factories to ports, is shaping an industrial revolution. This 12th edition of the Africa CEO Forum promises to be particularly strategic, with Africa exploring bold solutions as it faces unprecedented energy challenges. Is nuclear power the way to go, or are renewables the answer?
Decision-making, bringing together experts and discussing Africa's major economic strategies. This is at the core of the Africa CEO Forum 2025, which opened in Abidjan. With several heads of state attending the opening ceremony, including Alassane Ouattara, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, Cyril Ramaphosa, Mohamed Ould Ghazouani and Paul Kagame, the forum left no doubts on the strategic importance of the discussions underway. Among the highlights, a face-off on Africa's energy future. Should the continent bet on renewables or consider nuclear power? Tony Tiyu, CEO of Renewables in Africa and a strong advocate for clean energy, pointed out that solar and wind costs have dropped by 90% and 70% respectively over the past decade, offering fast and attractive solutions for the continent. These green energies, which can be deployed quickly, are appealing for the flexibility, but they remain intermittent and require investment in storage and grid stability. In contrast, Loyiso Tiabashe, CEO of Nexa Group, South Africa's nuclear energy agency, makes the case for nuclear, a low-carbon energy source capable of providing a stable base to meet Africa's energy demand, which is expected to triple by 2050.
Can nuclear energy address Africa's energy challenges? Loyiso Tiabashe, CEO of South Africa's Nuclear Energy Corporation, offers us some insights.
Sir, welcome in Business Africa. First of all, what do you bet on nuclear energy?
So my belief is that the two technologies, nuclear, which is base load, and the renewables, which are very much spoken about, they should live together. However, with the current issue of power shortages, we really need to have reliable security of supply. And I think nuclear plays a central point in that particular debate. We really need to also look at the affordability. We have proven with our two nuclear units in Cape Town in South Africa that nuclear is one of the cheapest forms of generating electricity. And most importantly for me, it is environmentally responsible. So I believe nuclear plays a very strong role in securing Africa for energy.
Some experts are wondering, how do we manage radioactive waste? How does Nexa do it?
We need to make sure that all the different categories of waste, we store them appropriately so we can account for all the solid waste that we've had since our research reactor since 1965, as well as the power reactor since 1984. We can account for all the waste that we have done.
What role can small modular reactors play in this project?
Small modular reactors promise to be cheaper in the long run. They also promise to be deployable very quickly. So they will help in making sure that we reduce the time of installing these plants, as well as reducing the price of the overnight capital cost. Very important. In South Africa, I believe that our grid is big enough to handle both the big reactors and the small reactors. But there are some countries that have got small national grids where you cannot put in the big plants. You only need to put in the small plants. And in that regard, we need to look at the grid stability versus the plant that we need to deploy. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. We need to measure and compare what generation technology is suitable for a particular grid.
Do you think mixing both renewables and nuclear energy will be a more durable and realistic option for Africa, maybe by 2050? What do you say?
I believe where Africa is, with about 600 million people without electricity, we really need to focus on base load, which is available 24/7. Renewables can also be researched and be looked at. However, nuclear needs to be one of the driving forces to ensure that we've got an industrialized Africa as we move forward.
Sir, can you walk us through next biggest project and maybe what's next?
Currently, we operate a research reactor which produces medical and industrial isotopes, and that is really helping us to improve and work with the hospitals in terms of improving the cancer, treating the cancer, detecting the cancer in patients. We know that cancer is going to grow, as it is said by the World Health Organization, and we need to make sure that we've got a precision type of a technology to cure those. Our future plans talk to being able now to develop nuclear fuel from raw uranium. We do have uranium in South Africa, we do have uranium in the rest of the continent, and we need to beneficiate that until it becomes nuclear fuel that can be used in power reactors as well as research reactors. We also want to build a small modular reactor, as you spoke about, and want to investigate multiple uses of the research reactor in the form of power generation, process heating, as well as isotope production. And there are also other projects that are supplementing the entire span of front-end fuel and the research reactors by themselves.
Mr. Tiabashe, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and you're most welcome.
Africa wants to harness the power of artificial intelligence, but at what cost? As new technologies evolve faster than the laws, the need for effective regulation is becoming urgent.
Artificial intelligence is reshaping economies and societies around the world, and Africa is determined to have its say. At the Africa CEO Forum, a pivotal panel tackled the question, AI regulation, what model for Africa? While the United States favors self-regulation, Europe opts for strict legal frameworks, and China embraces a centralized approach, Africa must carve out its own path, a daunting task balancing innovation, technological sovereignty and local realities. I think we have a reason to be cautiously optimistic. Several countries have already adopted national AI strategies. I'm thinking of Benin, Rwanda and the African Union, which launched an initiative in this direction in 2024. Connectivity, data storage and research remain major infrastructural challenges, yet artificial intelligence presents a unique opportunity to create jobs and tailor technologies to local needs, including the continent's vast linguistic diversity.
What we are doing from an Africa context and AI is developing tools that, for example, can communicate with users in the large languages we have, Kiswahili, Amharic, Yoruba in West Africa, so that we don't exclude. Africa has more than close to 2,000 languages. So how do we ensure that we do not exclude people just from a language barrier?
To avoid becoming subject to decisions made by global tech giants, the continent must accelerate both its governance frameworks and investment strategies. One thing is clear, Africa holds the potential to shape its own chapter of AI revolution.
Ports, roads and rail infrastructure are no longer just logistics tools. They're the foundation of African industrialization. They're also a key lever for transforming value chains.
Africa's industrialization depends on its infrastructure, a pressing issue at the heart of the Africa CEO Forum, where leaders and investors discussed how to better connect factories, ports and markets. It's a major challenge as energy and logistics needs remain vast. Without reliable supply chains, there is no industrial growth. According to the African Development Bank, the infrastructure gap is costing the continent up to 2% in annual growth. In Africa, up to 30% or 40% of produce is lost right at the edge of the fields. We are working on projects in Senegal and other countries to build specialized warehouses near farms to reduce agricultural losses and ship these products either to intra-African markets, to processing zones, or to international markets. But without reliable energy, transformation is a challenge. On the sidelines of the forum, Schneider Electric signed 2 agreements with 3MD Energy and Smart Energy to develop local solutions combining production and digitalization.
3MD will set up a facility in Côte d'Ivoire to assemble medium voltage equipment for electricity utilities, which will be made locally and exported across the sub-region.
Local production and innovation. Agreements like these serve a dual purpose: energy and employment, a key driver for the AFCFTA, which could boost intra-African trade. Governments must simplify regulations, attract investment, and connect remote areas. Without roads, rail, and energy grids, Africa cannot capture the value of its raw materials.
And that's it for this special edition of Business Africa from Abidjan. To watch it again, head over to africanews.com and all our digital platforms. See you soon.
Business Africa was presented by Turkish Airlines.